Ajay Banga, welcome to The Economist.
Thank you very much for having me.
The American public has resoundingly re-elected Donald Trump. He will be the 47th president as well as the 45th. I think it's reasonable to conclude that he is going to push for more tariffs. And if he pushes for more tariffs, other countries are likely to retaliate. Now, we may not have 1930s style tariff war, but we will have higher tariffs. What does that mean for the world's poor?
So first of all, I think the whole global trading system has been changing for a few years, not just today. And if you think about the way the trading system is changing, it's not that trade's not happening. It's happening in different methods from earlier. The global trading system of a just-in-time system, which sort of assembles things in 12 different countries and brings it back to one, that already had begun to change. COVID actually was the biggest driver of that change, but it had begun to change even before that. Nearshoring, friendshoring, all these words came with that. I think that is inevitable, that it's going to keep going. The question really is, when I chaired the International Chamber of Commerce, as part of my night job once upon a time, I used to tell people, get used to the idea of more regional and bilateral deals, because they will be a part of the way that business will be done and trading will be done. I don't think that changes. The tools that are used to drive that may be different. And the tool of tariffs in one versus the tool of a IRA Act, which is also trying to encourage domestic investing in America. They're both ways of helping American industry find a way to be competitive, reinvest in America, create production there, create jobs there.
So you're saying this isn't necessarily a worse situation for developing countries?
I don't know yet. You'll have to see. I can't tell you that. All I know is for clear to me is that actually, if you think through Africa, for example, which is where I'm focused, right, for the moment, I was saying that African manufacturing for jobs creation will depend a great deal on local consumption and local regional kind of consumption.
And how does that link to another topic that has become an increasing area of focus for the bank, which is the climate agenda, and you as the main provider of climate finance?
So we've always been that. In fact, as I said past as well, even when I joined, the bank was already at about 35% of its financing between IBRD and IDA and IFC going to climate-related financing. What I said was, we'll get to 45% by 2025. We're at 44 as we speak, half for mitigation, half for adaptation. The adaptation part is essential because the emerging market countries, most of them, unless you're one of the larger middle-income countries, your contribution to emissions is much lower. The impact you're facing from the effects of climate change, be it from weather events or the like, are much more of a challenge. And so I was trying to make both parties understand, the developed world and the developing world, that if you're going to try and do something about this, you're going to do something on mitigation, something on adaptation.
Absolutely. But is there a tension between, you have a limited pot of funds. If you're
Correct.
extremely good at raising money, even in the Trump administration, you might have a bigger pot of funds.
But it still is inadequate compared to anything you need across the development goals and jobs.
Exactly. And so there is a trade-off, right? How
Yes.
much you focus on climate mitigation versus how much you focus on development.
Almost everybody in the global emerging markets, when you talk to them, once you explain to them what you're trying to do, they're keen, as you and I are, that their school should be climate resilient, that their road should be weather resilient. That's very much a part of it. Their hospital should be. So how do you deliver healthcare? Through primary health facilities? If I make that primary health facility capable of being climate resilient, am I not taking adaptation as well as health? This is a choice that only exists in theory. In actual practice on the ground, you can definitely drive good outcomes for development by doing it clever and doing it smart.
So when there are, and you're off to Baku for the annual COP, is the framing of the development finance agenda, in your view, done the right way? Because it doesn't seem to be framed quite the way you've just described it to me.
Yeah, but I keep describing it the way I do. I haven't changed. I've been saying this from day one, that at the end of the day, there's no trade-off between these. And not only that, just to be completely clear, the question on mitigation really comes down to how much of that can be done by the private sector anyway. And you've heard me speak often about my belief in the role of the private sector in this agenda. What you cannot get the private sector to do is invest where the public sector is better positioned to do it. But in things like mitigation, where solar and wind, and for that matter, other forms of geothermal and nuclear and the like, nuclear is the hardest one today, but these are proven to be efficient compared to traditional fossil fuel. Then tell me, why is it that the private sector is not beating the doors down of some of these countries to invest in? Most of it has to do out of our lab, which we got done with Mark Carney and Shriti, with 15 CEOs. 5 things came out. The first one is regulatory policy certainty. The second one is, even if I get that, I need political risk guarantees, which we can help. We have this institution called MEGA. We've taken the guarantees across the bank, put them together. Already the amount of guarantees we are writing right now are double what they were a year and a half ago. I think we can grow further over the coming period. The third one is, can an institution like ours take the first risk, junior equity, in a project, and thereby get the private sector over the edge on its profitability there? And that's a possibility. And I'm looking at that as well. And then the fourth one is, can I help with foreign exchange in some way? That's the hardest because, you've got 30-year investments, but you've got no real hedging market. So there, what you could do is do more local currency financing, which we're doing. IFC now has almost 35% of its financing in local currency by signing swap deals with large commercial banks locally in some of the middle-income countries.
So you raise lots of really interesting things there. One, the importance of nuclear. Does that mean that you should change your own policies towards nuclear?
I've actually had a detailed discussion with our board about the future of where energy investing has to go. We've discussed nuclear. We're going to have a full discussion on nuclear, gas, geothermal, solar, wind as a way of what we should do. Nuclear, currently, our board does not finance anything, mostly because of the cost of traditional nuclear. If small modular reactors come about, that's a different game altogether. Those are not yet commercially known. We're not exactly the institution that should fund cutting-edge technology. We're a development institution, not a venture capital.
But it's not an ideological opposition to nuclear.
No.